Hey, friends, welcome to this executive leadership training. I'm so excited to share this content with you because it's going to give you a clear framework for your executive leadership context. And then there's going to be a toolkit with templates that you can apply and get going with. So I wanted to share this and really just invest in your own executive leadership journey. I have the privilege of knowing most of you and working with many of you in this coaching journey. And so I wanted to come back around and invest again to say thank you and really just to further your leadership progress. And so I'm going to pull the audio down just a little bit and dive right into the content. What I wanted to do is share a free training for executive leaders and entrepreneurs. And then I wanted to give you a toolkit that you can begin to apply in your leadership context. And so here we go. We're talking about executive team mapping. It's a really important conversation to have because it's where leaders are living every single day. We're going to be talking about how to actually repurpose your team's org chart from feeling like this dreadful obligation into a strategic advantage for you and your team again. And we're going to do that by sharing 3 territory expanding shifts. And what I mean by territory is the space that you work in and the responsibilities that you lead with. And if you know me, we've been talking a lot on this leadership journey about our capacity to lead in every domain of life, and then how that translates to the working relationships and the team cultures that we are pioneering. And so, the big idea here is that when we grow our leadership capacity, then we can offer more team territory, more space, more responsibility for other people. And they're not just showing up as doers or followers or yes people, but they actually get to show up in a different way, which is as a part of the team. And they're serving and contributing as a team of leaders now. And you're like, wow, I didn't think we could cover all of this and do even more than we were doing 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And it's because you were growing your capacity, so now you can serve and lead on a much larger territory. And so let's dive in with the overview. This is where we're going in this training. We're going to talk about the 3 territory expanding shifts that you and I can and need to be making right now. And then I'm going to give you this toolkit. I'm going to walk you through step by step the templates that you can apply for your executive leadership context, calling it the Executive Team Mapping Toolkit. And this is the training that we're going to be taking on together. So the first shift that we're having to make is to reimagine our territory. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, as a Christ follower, I find my lessons for life from the Bible. And there's this story that's really been resonating with me in Genesis 13. And basically, there was friction and there was strife, and they weren't getting along. And Abraham had to make a choice. And so he got this wisdom path to get out of a repeat year cycle, to kind of get out of this stuckage in his life and in his leadership. And the big idea is, hey, we're family. We should separate. It's not good for us to be crowding and competing over such a small territory. Let's give each other some space. And when he made that shift, that first shift, it unlocked something for Abraham. He actually got this message from God, who said to him, "Look around you, look north, south, east, west, and basically look at your territory again. Look at all of the space you now have available because you were willing to make a relational shift in your life. And so when we talk about, reimagining our territory, we're looking for some action steps. How do we do that? The first one is, would you be willing to create distance in your relationships? Are you willing to create distance in relationships that may minimize or even threaten your sense of territory, just like Abraham had to do? And the second thing is to really just take inventory of your thought life and ask which of your current relationships may be taking up too much space in your life right now. And how would you show up differently to take care of those relationships, but also prefer your future relationships as well? If you can see that little diagram there, you're seeing this little leader, this executive is giving it all they've got, and yet man, they're really overwhelmed, and they're thinking about the same things over and over again, and this other one, they're just trying to escape. But we've got to be okay with creating healthy distance in our own relationships, because that's going to give us more territory, a renewed sense of space, responsibility, ownership. And out of that, we're going to feel the future start crashing in with new optimism, with fresh hope, with creativity. I mean, you'll be shocked just how much lighter your workday feels when you update your identity and you reimagine your territory. And so that's the first step, the first shift that I want you to make. Um, what happens is when you're willing to create that healthy distance in relationships around you right now, doesn't mean that you cut them off or you burn bridges. It just means that you are taking inventory of the current chapter in your life story, and you want to make sure that you're giving enough space in your heart and your head to the future relationships, future opportunities. And you don't want your sense of territory to be challenged by people that don't get you, or they don't get what you're going for. And so you can actually love people well and still have boundaries and still have space. In fact, it's actually a really important life principle. And so what happens for Abraham is what I hope will happen for you too, that after you're willing to make that choice, that change, to create space so that way you can take responsibility for your own territory, then you get to upgrade that view of what's possible. And that's the last reflective question I have for you, which is, when was the last time you looked out at your upgraded territory in each life domain? And we really do want to get a renewed vision of our own life domains. Look north, south, east, west. What's possible for you personally, with your family? What's possible for you with this amazing executive work you do? What's possible for your community? The impact you can have, the income you can make. Um, we we can actually dream bigger and breathe lighter when we actually update our story. And so that leads us to the second shift, which is the same way you got this updated sense of territory, and you were lifting the burdens off, and you were kind of finding priorities again. You got to do that for every single member of your team. You have to help them go through the same process. It's going to be an empathetic approach in your team, but it's also going to be an empowering approach for your team. Your team will appreciate you for it, and they'll actually be able to give more to the work that y'all share together. And so the second shift here is re-meet your team with role clarity. Now, what do I mean re-meet the team? Because I mean, these are the same people we work with every single day, every week. I mean, you know them inside and out because you're interacting with them all the time in meetings and in projects. And so we can actually get really familiar with the people on our team, and that can be a disadvantage when we're thinking about how we're going to help this team thing go into the future and how we're going to prepare for the next phase now. Now, familiarity is actually a disadvantage. And so we have to uh, counteract that familiarity with a skill that I call futurability. And so we re meet our team with fresh role clarity. And the big idea here is simply the same way that you were waiting for that internal kind of heart check to feel clear and resolved about moving into your next phase. They've got to do the same thing too. And we don't want to be on on the cut list with the people on our team where they say, you know what, I feel like this job has been threatening my sense of territory and future, and so I need to create space from this. There might be times where it's good and it's right, but we want to be cognizant that that is the conversation everyone is going to be having at some point. And so if we actually position ourselves in a supportive way as a guide on their leadership journey, then they will actually have a positive perception of our work team and culture. And they're going to think that being on this team is the best thing that ever happened to them, because they don't have this sense that they're trying to be held back or that they're in a holding pattern, but actually they are, in the best place to advance in their own goals and in their own leadership journey. So don't assume that they're in the same place that they were 3 years or 5 years ago. I mean, come on, that was 2020, and we've all made choices and changes since then. So it's actually a kind thing for us to re-meet the people on our team. And the reason it matters so much is because if we, as the executive leaders, cannot offer relevant role clarity, or at least encourage our team members to get role clarity for where they currently are, not where they've been, then there's only two options for the team member on our team. And that's they will either internally plateau, or they're going to have their own epiphany without you, and they're going to follow that empowerment path right away from the team. They're going to move on professionally. And I got to just tell you, this is not the time to attack your talent. This is the time to attract great talent and to let them know that you actually are not intimidated by them leveling up. You want to inspire them to keep leveling up, and you want to show them that when they're with you doing that work, there's actually going to be an empowering path waiting on them. And that's where we have this mindset shift. It's amazing when we as executive leaders realize that helping the people on our team see what's possible for them with our own org chart is actually going to help them grow. And I work with executive leaders and entrepreneurs, and they're always thinking about their staff, their mission, their budgeting, their payroll, and they're just trying to make sense financially as well as relationally with all of the trade-offs that are in front of them. And so it's a balancing act. It's a timing issue. Do we promote someone? Do we hire someone? Is that person ready for more responsibility? And those are the choices that start bogging down executive leaders. They don't want to deal with it, and so they assume that just because people are doing stuff, that it's the best use of everybody's time and the best use of the organization's resources. And so we start to kind of get a chip, if I could say it that way. We kind of get a chip on our shoulder about the very people working in the organization, because we're always trying to size up whether they're doing enough to kind of pull their weight. But the reality is that they will grow, they will level up, they will blow your minds in terms of what's possible if you show them how they can advance in their own leadership journey with your organization as the map for it. And that's what they're looking for. They're just looking for places where they can be fulfilled, they can do great work, they can be around great people, and you actually get to position yourself as part of that solution. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone, is going to take that opportunity, and that's why this role clarity conversation is so helpful, because even if and when it's time to make a change, you have already positioned yourself as the champion of their potential and the friend and the guide on their own leadership journey. And so it's going to be really clear and obvious when it's time to make a change. All right, the last shift that we need to make as executive leaders and entrepreneurs is we've got to repurpose that org chart. I mean, it's so important that we repurpose the view that we have about the org chart. And I get it. I mean, it's not fun. It's boring. It's always been there. And again, we think, well, people are already doing stuff, so it must mean that the org chart is working, but it's not. We've got to stop thinking that the org chart just tells us who does what by when. It's not just a corporate checklist of all the tasks that need to get done and then you divvy it up. It's actually much more powerful than that, because it's not just a mechanical procedure that has to get done. It's actually a really powerful tool that we can use to relationally and visually show people where we are going as a team and organization. So instead of, just thinking of it as what is everybody doing and how are we getting all the work done, let's hand off the org chart to leaders and potential leaders and let it serve as a visual, as a organizational map that they can begin to see themselves making progress on. They say, wow, I'm here on the org chart, but now, this, as this team grows, our territory is going to grow. And now I can see space and responsibility for me to move towards. And they're going to begin to see a really clear path to make progress in their own journey, because they see how their goals, how their values, how their skill set, how their projects are actually contributing to the overall health and growth of the organization. And this is why I think leaders get stuck with the org chart stuff. And this is where I've been for a while. And this is the coaching work that I do with a lot of the executive leaders. And in theory, the org chart is supposed to be this very fine-tuned hierarchy of roles and responsibilities. And it's supposed to be perfect because we can just see it on paper. But the reality is the org chart is never perfect. It's always messy. It's always unfinished. And it's more of a map than it is anything else. And yet in reality, and in practice, it becomes this maze of obstacles and very difficult team interactions for the team, because this is what the org chart says we should be doing, but in reality, if I want to get something done, I have to talk to someone else outside of my direct reports, and I have to talk to them, to email so and so, to work with so and so, because there's all of these unspoken rules of engagement that we may or may not be paying attention to. And so the org chart can actually turn into a maze that makes work harder and more difficult to get done, because, of the way it's all kind of patchwork together. And so I really want to challenge you, change that dusty old org chart into real uncharted progress. And the way we do that is, instead of using the org chart as this, obligation where we discourage people, the very people we're trying to bring into the future with us, let's show them with the org chart in very realistic, relevant ways how we are all going to be growing together, and then how they can be moving further in their own leadership journey with that visual. It's a really powerful tool that we can use both as a diagnostic, but also as a discussion guide. So we can actually bring people into that conversation and show them where they need to be leading next. And so the 3 shifts that we want to make is reimagine our territory personally, feel what that kind of transformation and breakthrough is like, and then let's be an ambassador for that kind of culture and let's re-meet the people on our team. Let's replace familiarity with role clarity. Let's see, what have they really been going through the past 2 or 3 years, and what are their goals and values, and is it a good fit for where the team is going next? And then you can bring new leaders or emerging leaders to the front lines of your organization by using the org chart as a vision casting tool. And that's where we get into the templates. These templates are going to help you grow your executive team. Now, obviously, you've got a lot of team members, I'm sure, but I really want to focus on that shift from you being the only leader with, the decision making power and the burden of responsibility. And I want to shift that to this mindset that you're actually growing into a team of leaders as well. And so this toolkit is going to help you do that. This is just kind of an overview. When you download this toolkit, you're going to get those pieces. I'm going to start with the framework because this is the process that you actually use the toolkit on. The first one is you're going to look at the team territory, so to speak. You're looking at the org chart again with fresh eyes. And there's actually a template that I use so that way you're structuring your teams around your strategy, not your struggles. So many times we're making the org chart around our struggles, and we're just obligating people to help out. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. It's only temporary. and and instead of making the org chart around struggles that are currently happening in the organization, let's make an org chart that's future focused, that's really sharp, and just fulfills the strategy that we've all agreed to. Then when you have that template, and it'll literally walk you through that process of how would you, set this up. Then you are ready, you're better prepared to have meaningful conversations with the people on your team. And you're doing this in kind of this two-way approach, right? The first goal is just investing goodwill into your team culture. And so there has to be there has to be this point in you where you admit, I cannot control what they are going to do next. I'm going to open this door and be a guide for them and encourage them to actually level up. And if they choose they're going to level up without me, then I got to be okay with that. And I have to trust that someone else will come and fill in those gaps that are needed. But investing that kind of goodwill is really going to be a good antidote for a lot of the nasty side effects of a entrenched team culture. And so you're going to have the role clarity mapping that goes on, and that's where you have honest conversations with the members of your team, specifically your leaders or your future leaders. And you want to see where they're at. You want to see where they've been, where they're at, where they're going. And there are questions that you can use. You don't have to go through all the questions, but you can kind of pick and choose how you want to kind of plug and play it. And you'll get really good data that you can begin to map out what your organization is going to be looking like. And you can see gaps, you can see potential, and you can actually begin to chart the course for their own leadership journey in your executive context. And then the last step is the executive leadership journey, that you've made promises to your team and to the leaders on your team that you want to navigate the next phase now. You're thinking ahead. You want everybody to be on the same page so that way y'all can accelerate together and you can, see exponential ROIs on all your time and effort. And with that, you're going to have to follow through on those promises. And so that's where the coaching journey really comes in. And I encourage everyone, you need to be going on a leadership coaching journey. You need to take your team on a leadership coaching journey. I think it's awesome when the executive leaders or, the main kind of visionary leader is guiding everybody on that path. They're the champion of leadership development. They're the advocate for leadership preparedness. They say, hey, I need to keep leveling up. I want y'all to keep leveling up too. And that's where coaching is really, really valuable. And I totally support everyone getting coaching at whatever level they can. You can get books, you can get courses, conferences, you can find a coach, get a business coach. There's so many avenues you can take, but you've got to take your leaders in a ongoing coaching journey. And I do offer executive coaching to fit this criterion, and I'll explain that in a little bit more. But when you get through the template, all these tools in the toolkit, you start with the org chart, okay? And then you're going to move into the role clarity conversation so you can map out everybody's leadership journey, and you'll be better prepared for what they do next. You're going to know in advance kind of which way they're leaning, and they'll know what's expected of them as well. And it's really, really helpful. And then you're committed at whatever level you can to provide reliable leadership coaching for those leaders, individually as well as as a team effort. And so please download this entire guide while you can. I wanted to create a resource for you because I really appreciate you. And I want you to get the value of this so you can feel it going into quarter 3 and even going into next year. And you can definitely plug and play and use this, but I'm going to tell you, to get the most out of this project, I want to have an executive leadership coaching session with you. And so I really want to urge you to book a executive leadership session so that way we can make the most of this work. We can work together and we can map out how you're going to roll this out and how your team is going to get the most benefit from this. You know, I've done the numbers and I'm telling you, this is a huge value. It's going to make a big difference in your team culture. And my hope is that I can serve in a behind the scenes way, right? I want to have that conversation with you. I want you to feel better prepared as you're having this discussion with your team. And then you're going out as a better navigator, as a better team leader for everyone on that executive level. And so that's the contribution that I want to make for y'all. The process is very simple. You will book an executive leadership session right here on this page. And then you're going to wait. I'll see it on my side. I'll make sure that the dates work. And then once your session is confirmed, then we can grow your leadership culture together. We can develop that executive team. And I'm super excited about that. I've seen a lot of progress in multiple contexts. And so I can't wait to help you go further in yours. All right. Remember, I'm here to pioneer with you, and I really appreciate this time to share this training. So if you found value from it, let me know. Go ahead and get into the templates, and I am excited to talk with you for our next round of executive leadership coaching. We'll see you real soon.